what the audiologist told me is that silence is my biggest enemy. He said you need to drown it out any chance that you get driving in the car, or and I'm like, well, is that really habituating to it?
Not at all. That's the opposite of habituating to it. That's keeping this loop of reactivity alive because you're trying to keep it out as much as you can. Oh my goodness, when I hear that, man, it makes me so anxious because it's the opposite of habituation. You don't have to fear anything from the sound. What you do with sound therapy is you mask the sound because you continue to think that by all means you need to avoid tinnitus. You don't.
And in today's video, you just heard Malcolm from San Antonio. He's relatively new to tinnitus. So in this tinnitus coaching session, we talked about all the anxiety that he's been experiencing, but also giving him some strategies and tips and tricks. And by now we've already worked with Malcolm for a couple of coaching sessions, and a little spoiler alert, he's doing way better while also having joined our program. If you are currently struggling with tinnitus and you want to get one of these free coaching sessions, then I'm super happy if you reach out. There's a link in the description to this episode where I offer you a 30 minutes free coaching session in exchange for the ability to share it with the world. My name is Frida. I've been born deaf on my left ear, and I've had a hearing aid and a severe high-pitched tinnitus for the last 15 years. I've also been working as a tinnitus coach for the last 5 years. All right, I wish you a lot of fun with this coaching session that I did with Malcolm. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe and share it with the people who think might really benefit from this quick online coaching session, and maybe see you in one of those. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Today we have another episode here on the channel, and we talk to Malcolm from San Antonio, Texas. And Malcolm's been here with us today because he's been dealing with a little bit of a rough patch with his tinnitus. So today in this 30 minutes coaching session, we try everything we can and that's in our power in order to get Malcolm to the next level in his journey. So Malcolm, please welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself briefly to our audience and tell us a little bit about your story.
Hey everyone, my name is Malcolm from San Antonio. Yep, I just recently went to the audiologist from a ringing in my ear.
Yeah.
It all started about a month ago now, actually, when I went to the gun range with a company shooting event. And I've used the 3M foam earplugs and was shooting all day. Thought that was sufficient.
Yeah, no.
And then come to find out that those aren't, the best ear protection at all.
Yeah.
And so I had the ringing in my ear, and then about a month, and I didn't think too much of it. I thought, it'll just go away. I didn't research it. I didn't look online or nothing. And I went through Christmas and everything and had a good Christmas. And my wife said I went, I would go days, 3-4 days without complaining about it. And then about a week, a month passes, and then I get back to working, and I do a couple swings of the hammer and do some things with construction. And then I realized, wow, and I think that might have made it louder, just because I wasn't wearing hearing protection like I never do, because it's just tools.
Right.
And I'm usually fine with tools. I never have a ringing. And then I'm like, wow, this ringing is still in my ear, and it feels kind of louder. And then so I get online and really start researching and looking at tinnitus, and then I just freak out, and I just automatically just praying that I have an ear infection, and just it's a really tough, hard pill to swallow. And then I go to the audiologist, and she gives me a hearing test, and she says my left ear, which is I have the ringing, it's a high frequency ringing, about between 6,000 and 8.5 kilohertz.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Makes sense.
and it changes in pitch. I don't know if it's 15 decimals between 30 decimals, but that's what it's dealing with. And I go to the audiologist, and she says, you gave yourself a hearing loss, permanent hearing loss. You're going to need hearing aids. It's going to be a rough, go. come back next week with your wife. We're gonna have a heart to heart. And
Okay.
since then, I've just been spiraling kind
Yeah.
of down.
Right. First thing I need to say, thanks for sharing that. It's never easy to share that with someone else when you're struggling with things, and I know it. Yeah. So thank you for giving me the trust. But I understand a few things already. The first thing I'd understand is you never had a problem until you started Googling. So your emotional reaction to a sound that you experience was never a problem until you went where the herd goes. And if the herd goes and gets super anxious and freaks out about their tinnitus because of certain posts on the internet, then certainly we think, well, that will apply to me too. So if everyone else says this is this terrible and this is such a big problem, then I will have a big problem too. And that's where you get stuck in the anxiety, fight or flight. So this is the first question that I have to you. So quite literally, until you started Googling, tinnitus was not as much an issue for you.
Right.
Okay, first thing. Second thing, you got yourself a hearing loss is another thing that plays into this emotional card, right? It's another thing that plays the emotional card. Everyone gets themselves a hearing loss. Like other people who work on construction sites or work with heavy machinery, they get themselves a hearing loss as well. Sometimes they also do get tinnitus. Living gives you hearing loss. So if you're not 15 anymore and you've never been to a club, then very, very, very high chance that you have some degree of hearing loss, right? Life gives you hearing loss, and it's normal that it's progressive. And yes, of course, people who work in construction might have a higher hearing loss, but what you need to understand is A, you never had a problem in the relationship with your tinnitus until you started Googling. And B, now your audiologist makes it sound, well, of course, because she's an audiologist, so she's passionate about hearing aids and she's also passionate about selling them to you. And if you have the indication for one, you should get it. But there's not more than, well, they do the same thing as glasses for your eyes, right? If you don't see properly, you go to the you go to the optometrician, you get glasses measured, end of story. No need to be emotional about it. I mean, you can say, shit, my eyes are getting worse. Sorry for the language. But, you know, in the end, it's simply your eyes getting worse. You get a fix for that, and that's it. Same thing for your hearing. So this over emotionalizing is unnecessary, and it plays a card that is already difficult for people who start dealing with tinnitus, right? And most people who start dealing with tinnitus, they find themselves in exactly the same place where you find yourself in. Your problem is not originally with the sound that you experience, because think back to the time where you had tinnitus, but you weren't bothered about it. But your problem is with the emotional reaction. So the way the tinnitus makes you feel now, that your brain has started to classify it as something dangerous, because other people maybe say on the internet they're having massive problems with it. It's been years for them since they started trying to habituate or get better with it. But this is all because they're stuck in this emotional cycle in which the release of the stress hormones tells us we have a big problem here. Then we read up on more scary stories, etc. And then we continue down that rabbit hole all the time. And as we have tinnitus 24/7, we always tune into that, right? If we want to, we can always tune into it. But you know how it was before you started Googling. There were large periods of the day, let me suppose, you can correct me here in a minute, but there were probably large amounts of the day where you were not really focusing on it because you didn't ascribe any meaning to it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, so okay, then let's continue this journey. What's the thing that you have the biggest obstacle with right now? So what for you is it anxiety? Is it trouble sleeping? Is it concentrating at work? What's your biggest obstacle?
Well, for me, I've been sleeping a lot, like oversleeping like 12 hours, 14 hours for this whole weekend just because
Yeah.
I think I'm so depressed and I have so much anxiety around this situation that I just want to sleep and make it like reality go away.
Okay.
And I have a 4-year-old son and a six and an 8-month-old and a wife, and I'm like, it's just I'm like when the baby cries, I'm like sensitive to it now, and it's just like really sad for me, and it's just
Right.
really tough to deal with, and I'm just finding a hard time being the strong man that I'm supposed to be for my family because I feel like guilt. I feel so much guilt that I did this to myself. I feel so much anger that, nobody, told me not to do that. I have all these negative emotions.
Right.
And the only thing that gives me relief is that my father, who's 50, and also another coworker who's 50, and also my father-in-law who's 50, they told me that they have tinnitus. Um, and I never knew they had tinnitus.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you just got to get used to it. It's fine. Just get used to it. They kind of like, then
Yeah.
my father-in-law, he got it from Iraq, and he's like, yeah, it's tough the first 6 months, but you just got to get used to it. And he has his ways of dealing with it. He wears earplugs all the time, but none of them have hearing aids. And the audiologist is telling me I need hearing aids, so I'm like stuck in this like
Dude,
information overload. I don't know if I need a hearing aid. I don't know if I can habituate it. I don't know if the hearing aid will help me habituate it. I just don't know. I'm so confused
dude,
and
let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, because there's a few things that we need to separate. And it's important that we need to separate them, okay? The first thing you need to know is the guilt is not going to make anything better. The guilt is going to let you be stuck in this emotional reactivity situation. You're not guilty for that, man. You just didn't know better at the time, and that happens. But it could have happened. Even you, look, we always think if we can just overprotect our ears after having tinnitus, then we can avoid it. You can't. Life is loud. When you go out on the street and there's an ambulance passing and suddenly you have tinnitus onset, if you didn't get it from the gun range, very likely if you have the genetic predisposition for tinnitus and the hearing loss you have, you would have gotten tinnitus anyways. So stop doing the guilt thing, because the guilt thing is going to keep your amygdala in overdrive. The guilt thing is going to keep the fear and panic center releasing this emotional reactivity, stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline all the time. So stop being guilty about it. You're a great father. I'm sure you're a great dad. You're a great husband, etc. And you're saying you're supposed to be this tough guy. Well, yes, but you also have a chance to show your family members that compassion is a valuable thing, and that we can't always be these strong people. It's okay not to always be super strong. We can have difficult times in life, and if we explain it properly, we seem even stronger. Instead of thinking that you lose an image to your family, make yourself connect with them more. Say to them like, it's all right, daddy's got a tough time right now, but he'll be fine. Don't worry about it, son. Sometimes things in life are difficult, but you do what I did. You go out, you get help from different sides. You book this coaching session, you went to the audiologist, you get the help from all these sides, and then you work on managing this anxiety. And you got to understand, and this is why I stopped you, that you got to separate all these things. One thing is guilt. The other one is confused with whether you should have a hearing aid or not. And all these kind of things, they keep you in this constant overdrive. And then also this Googling and these terrible stories from people who've done horrible things to them because of tinnitus. In the end, a sound that you have learned, if you're not paying too much attention to it, it's not a problem. It's only since you started getting into the topic that you started developing a problem. And you need to appreciate that. Come back to that whenever you need to, that you can be the same kind of person with tinnitus, simply experiencing the sound of tinnitus, like when you go in the morning, have your coffee and chill in your kitchen, the humming of your fridge. I'm saying this over and over and over again. We are not upset about the humming of our fridge unless we think that the fridge is breaking down. Otherwise, the humming of the fridge has no emotional value attached to it, so we never even hear it. And this is the same thing for tinnitus, and everyone will habituate. So you need to have a strategic approach of how to deal with all these anxiety thoughts, and then know that none of them can harm you. It's everything's cool, man. Like everything is good. Like the hearing loss story, yeah, it's passé. If you need a hearing aid, it's a good thing to get a hearing aid. Next advice that I can give you, don't need a $3,000 hearing aid that has all these massive Bluetooth functionality and whatnot. Get one that's going to be helpful for you. Test many. You also have the right to go to as many audiologists as you want. If the first one only wants to sell you upmarket 3 grand hearing aids, and you say like, A, I can't afford that. B, I don't want a payment plan, whatever. I want a cheap and functioning hearing aid. Give me one that's cheap, but also functioning, right? And then try a few out and see which one is the best one for you. A hearing aid, mate, I'm deaf on this ear. I have a hearing aid and tinnitus for 15 years now. And tinnitus doesn't bother me one bit. What bothers me is my hearing loss. Yes, sometimes I don't understand stuff good. Right now, I'm in Colombia with my in-laws, with my wife. She's from Colombia. It's not my language. I speak Spanish fluently, but it's not my language. So it's more difficult with my hearing loss and everything. And that's annoying. But my tinnitus doesn't bother me one bit. So what I want to tell you is everything you're experiencing is absolutely natural and it's no problem, but you need a good framework of of releasing and understanding all of these things. It's okay to feel guilt, but you feel guilt on the wrong premises. It's okay for a while to be out and have a difficult time. Everyone's just out and having a difficult time. You talked about the guy. I mean, was it your dad or your father-in-law with the Iraq thing?
Yes.
Imagine that. Like, imagine you get tinnitus. A lot of soldiers, veterans in the US have tinnitus based on war stuff. Now, what's worse? You on a company event shooting a gun, getting tinnitus for that, or you seeing your comrade being blown up into 20,000 pieces and getting tinnitus from that, and tinnitus throws you back to that moment every single time. That's why people, and often veterans, have such a big problem with tinnitus. And it's absolutely understandable. Imagine seeing something like that, and the tinnitus transports you back to that all the time.
All right, guys, I just wanted to give you a very short introduction here to our online tinnitus club. So as soon as you have signed up, and I'll show you in a minute how to easily do that, you are directed onto this very first page. It's a quick welcome video where I tell you a little bit more about this club and everything that we have in store for you. We have a challenge going on to help everyone building the right kind of habits towards being able to habituate to their tinnitus. You can see there's a lot of engagement. We share weekly exercises that will help you on your habituation journey. Down here, you will see the tinnitus courses. The tinnitus courses are, in fact, something that we're also passionate about. So when you go down here, you can find the beginner's course that's included in all of these subscriptions. You would go to www.mytinnitus.club, and then you go to choose a plan, and then down here you will find all the different plans. So for example, if you want unlimited access to everything for 7 days, to try everything out, then you can just get the 7-day plan for $9.99, access to everything. Enter your first name, last name, email and password, and you create your account. Quickly put your credit card data in. It's all safe and secure. This is handled by the platform and Stripe, so it's all safe and secure. Or you can log in with Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Apple. For the other ones, we have 14-day free trials. So if you want to check those out, you get 14-day trials on any of these packages. Continue with Apple, and then just agree to these terms and conditions, and then you're set to join our online tinnitus club.
Right.
So these are the things. So first of all, I think maybe it was a little bit helpful in, first of all, establishing where you come from. Now tell me which of these thoughts and give you the most anxiety. What's giving you most anxiety? And then let's try to talk about that a little bit, because I think when we release the biggest parts of anxiety, then you feel like a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders, and then I think it'll be much easier for you to go ahead.
I feel like the part that is the worst is that the thought that that my dad's, my father-in-laws, and my coworkers that have tinnitus, I'm only 27, they're all in their 50s or older. And it's the fact that I don't know how loud theirs is, and mine feels now pretty loud. Like, I mean, it's not unbearable, but sometimes I feel like the pitch increases and it kind of irritates me now all of a sudden. And I don't know if that's enhanced because I'm stressing out so much about it, but then also, just my kids, trying to be present in the moment with them. And I mean, I haven't even ate hardly anything for the 2 days. Like, my body actually feels sick, and just trying to be present in the moment with them, play, if I'm not doing that, even when I'm doing that, it's hard, and I'm looking at them and I'm happy because they're them. But in my heart, I'm like having a hard time dealing with it, because every time I just hear that the E in the background, and it's having a pretty emotional effect on me. I broke down a couple times, to my mom and my wife, and never done anything like that. But it's just, seeing it online, people commit suicide from it and stuff. And then, you see my dad, he says, you just get used to it. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, how loud is it for you?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because your brain habituates to it anyways, whatever the loudness is. And let that be something that in future anxiety doesn't get you anywhere. Right? Like whether tinnitus or other things, terrible things happen in life, You can't always control them. And your brain, however, will habituate to tinnitus no matter the loudness. So the problem is the human psyche. The human psyche can go into very dark places very quickly, but it can also come out of them very quickly again. So the reason people get stuck is they dig down deeper into this hole, but you are already you're already way above and beyond. Just by booking this call and talking to me, you're already on different levels than what all these people are. And let me tell you why your tinnitus perception is so high. Of course, your brain has perceived this to be something that is like number one problem on why your quality of life has gone to shite. Yeah, that's what your brain says right now. How could your brain not focus on something that you have identified the number one enemy and obstacle for you to live your life right now? So that you respond in this kind of way with heightened awareness of your tinnitus, which literally the anxiety drives it louder, is absolutely natural. But I'm telling you again, like I've worked with people with very mild tinnitus having a much worse reaction than you have. And I've worked with people with much louder tinnitus, or like with, as they say, nearly death, only tinnitus, with relatively moderate experience of tinnitus, right? So tinnitus experience is individual, and it's often and largely driven by the amount of anxiety that you experience. So the one thing that I can tell you right now is what you need to do instead of saying like, I can't be like this when you're playing with your children. You can say to yourself, it's okay and it's normal for me to experience this. And let me tell you, that will start telling your brain that things are okay rather than things are absolutely not okay. So when you say like that I experienced this and this is louder and that the pitch is changing, it's because like, how could I not be anxious if my anxiety thoughts and the emotional connection I've made to this thing is one of what if I do this ultimate step? What if that happens to me like someone wrote on the internet? You say, but it won't, man. First of all, I will tell you another story. People who regularly write these kind of things on the internet, what do you think? Maybe they are habituated in 3 months. Do you think they go back to delete that comment? They don't. So the comment is on the internet. The person is habituated to tinnitus, like your father or father-in-law. They don't care about their tinnitus anymore. You think they go back into the internet where they wrote this shit to make someone else super anxious? They don't. Let me tell you, they don't. So the problem that you need to see is that how could someone else, you know, you wouldn't say this about depression either. Someone else who says like, I'm super depressed, doesn't mean that you as a human being, you have the capability to be super depressed. Your brain can be super depressed, right? But that doesn't mean that you have an immediate clinical depression going on, that someone who has a genetic predisposition for like super clinical depression, where it's like they're having a really, really like depression for therapy resistant depression for a long time. What you experience is you have a bout of depressed mood because tinnitus is keeping you stuck in this loop. That's what you experience. You don't experience major depression. You experience a depressed mood and difficult in these past weeks, maybe a couple of months. But in the same way that your brain has been able to get stuck in this way very quickly, your brain's going to be able to climb out there very quickly if you understand things a little bit better. And if you learn to tell your brain that the perception of tinnitus is that of which you adopted at the start, namely, it's fine. If you need a hearing aid, get a hearing aid. People with glasses get glasses. It's like, we need to also stop this association that hearing aids are also only for old people. That's BS. Our society has become louder. People wear earplugs the whole time, like AirPods and stuff, and they crank up the volume the whole time. And people's ears are just getting shitier every month. So then very normally we move into an era where more people wear glasses because they're always staring at the screen, but also hearing aids. It's quite normal. Not a bad thing to happen. Sorry for the long monologue. Was any of it helpful to you?
It was the most helpful, piece of relief that I've gotten, since being, talking with the audiologist.
Yeah. I just want to I want to leave you with this idea. I mean, we still have some more time, but I want to leave you with this idea. If there's one thing that I can do for you to be able to change the way you think and perceive your tinnitus, that you say when you're playing with your children, or when tinnitus comes up to bother you, that you say, it's okay that I'm reacting like this. This is not a problem. It's all right. It's fine for me to be able to react like this, because naturally I've started dealing with this and I've identified it as a threat to my well-being, but you can shift it back, and you will shift it back. And for all the other things that are your problem, map them out, write them down, be conscious of them, and then decide how you're going to take action about it. To say, for example, you don't want to be seen by your wife or your. Let me tell you, man, I've been weeping in my mom's arms when I got tinnitus. I mean, I was 19. I didn't know what to do. I felt minimum as stupid as you did, right? I was already deaf on one ear, screwing up this one, getting a hearing aid. What do you think where my anxiety was? I can relate to that, man. I absolutely can. But it's all right, man. It's nothing. It's normal. It's about how you communicate it. And if you communicate it in that way with your family to empower yourself and say, hey, look, daddy can even show emotions. He knows how to manage emotions. That's something very human, something very healthy. And you teach them something else that's going to be valuable for life. They will love you for it. Super powerful stuff.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, for sure. Anything.
Would you say that in dealing with this and trying to habituate it, what what the audiologist told me is that silence is my biggest enemy. And she shut the door on the silent thing. And she said, you hear that? She said, you need to drown it out any chance that you get driving in the car. And I'm like, well, is that really habituating to it?
Not at all. That's the opposite of habituating to it. That's keeping this loop of reactivity alive, because you're trying to keep it out as much as you can. Oh my goodness, when I hear that, man, it makes me so anxious, because it's the opposite of habituation. You don't have to fear anything from the sound. What you do with sound therapy is you mask the sound, because you continue to think that by all means you need to avoid tinnitus. You don't. You already know you don't need to avoid it, and that you're absolutely fine even with the experience of tinnitus. And that's true habituation. Living your life not paying one emotional F about tinnitus. And then your brain learns that tinnitus is nothing dangerous and that we don't need to tune into it. And then it goes into the background. Sound therapy, in my opinion, is the absolute opposite, the complete opposite to habituation, because you replace one sound by another one, and as soon as the battery runs out, you get severely anxious. And you continue in this cycle all the time, rather than teaching your brain that the perception of tinnitus is totally safe, which is, by the way, what your dad and your father-in-law have done. So therefore, they don't care about their tinnitus. But people who mask their tinnitus continuously, honestly, you know why she did that? Oh man, I don't want to get ahead of this, and I don't want to say they're a bad person, but obviously the sound masking hearing aids are more expensive because they have Bluetooth functionality and all of this kind of shit. So man, sorry, like you can take my advice, but you don't have to. But my opinion is sound therapy can work when we're severely anxious at the start to mask it. But how would this help you at building a relationship that your brain learns that tinnitus is safe to experience, therefore being able to habituate?
Right.
When you constantly mask it and running away from the sound, technically. There's no need to run away from it. It's like running away from a fly in your room. And the fly is like, it's just a fly. It's not even a mosquito. No need to run away from that thing.
Right.
Sorry, I get emotional when I hear that, because that's like, that's how people get stuck for years, man. Because they get stuck in this reactivity.
Yeah, that helps me so much, because that's really the confusion that I had, is like, she never once said anything about habituation. She just said about drowning the sound out. And it leads me to my other question. So then you have tinnitus and you have a hearing aid. So then I have a consultation on her on coming Friday. And I know she's going to try to sell me a hearing aid. And it's like, so then should I get a hearing aid at all, or should I not get one? Why would I get a hearing aid in the first place?
Did you get your audiogram? Did she send you the audiogram that you have?
My hearing test?
Yeah, the test. Yeah. All right. Send me an email of that. Send me a picture of that to my email.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not an audiologist, so I'm going to forward it to an audiologist and ask them what their recommendation is. It's probably usually pretty clear, so you can see it very quickly whether there's an indication for hearing aid or not. but just to be safe, because I don't want to give audiological or medical advice, I want to forward it to someone who is very, very good here in Germany, a very, very good friend of mine, and I'm going to get back to you before Friday.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, awesome.
All right. One final thing that I want to share with you, Malcolm, because I don't want to leave you all alone, is I want to share with you that you're obviously always welcome inside our club. I'm not sure how much you've seen about it already, but I have an online tinnitus habituation program. It's called mytinnitus.club. Maybe you can see the screen already.
Okay.
And we have all kinds of different programs in here. We have courses. I just recently released an 8 weeks guide to habituation, a big course. We have a lot of success stories with our members in here. We have weekly coaching sessions. We have game nights. We had a Christmas event. Right now, we have a 30-day challenge where people support each other and come together in a daily chat and everything. So yeah, it's a really, really cool community where it's the exact opposite of everything else you would see in online communities otherwise. But we all use the program that I've been using in the last five years in order to get people to habituation, to get them closer to habituation, and to really just share their successes and be happy about everything that we do together. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask you one more question? I know we're done with our time.
No, all good. All good. Anything. Ask me.
Does your hearing device help you with your tinnitus?
So the way the hearing aid helps with the tinnitus is because, you know, the hearing aid works in this way. The hearing aid has a microphone over here, right? That picks up sound from the outside, literally like my microphone here, and a speaker in here. And the speaker goes into the inner ear, right? So the microphone picks up the sounds from the environment. Then there's a sound processor, similarly to your AirPods or something, and then a speaker who puts the sound inside your ear. And what it does is it basically takes the frequencies that, according to your audiogram, you can't hear as well anymore and puts them in your ear. So then you hear more from the sounds. And as your tinnitus is very likely in the frequencies where you have the hearing loss, when you have the hearing aid in, you hear more from the outside world. And when you hear more from the outside world, tinnitus goes a little bit into the background. So it's not like tinnitus disappears, but when you do experience tinnitus and you have a hearing loss, then it's very likely that the hearing aid will help you to, no, it's not very likely. This is the purpose of the hearing aid is to even out the hearing loss according to the graph. And of course, when you hear more, the perception of tinnitus becomes less because you hear more from the outside. And of course, when I take my hearing aid out, I hear my tinnitus much more prominent, right? So when I have my hearing aid in, it picks up the sound from my voice, processes the sound from my voice, the frequencies I don't hear anymore. It takes your voice, processes your voice, puts it in here, and all the outside sounds. There are not many right now. The AC is going because it's hot here, and there's some other sounds that are. But that's the way hearing aids help with tinnitus, and that's a good thing. They don't do a miracle work, but they don't need to. The thing is, your brain does the miracle work all by itself, but there are things that you can do. There are science-based frameworks, what we talked about. So everything that we talked about your emotional reaction, about the way you think, believe, and feel about your tinnitus, those are all things that we can easily work with in order to get you to habituation a little bit faster. That's what we do inside the online program.
Well, I'm ready to join. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll send any other questions. And are there multiple one-on-one Zoom calls available to book?
No, this one is the first one and it's free, but I gotta say as well that I pay my rent and I do my living with this coaching as well. So I would have to do a coaching program and I would have to charge you for one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, no, I definitely expecting to pay for it, but I just want to know, how do I sign up to?
Okay. Yeah, that's
to-
no that's no problem. I can send you an email with all the resources afterwards, and then you can just respond to that email, send me your audiogram. And then we can take it from there.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Thank you so much. I'm excited. You helped me. You helped me more than you know.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're here for, and I'm happy to do that, man. It's nice to connect and nice to see you. And if I can say one final thing, try not to be too hard on yourself. It's difficult, but it's going to be okay. You don't need to worry about it too much. Just make sure you you feel confident in everything you do, and it's not always easy, but you will, and then communicate it the right way to the people that are with you. Then you feel like you're in control again, although it's still difficult, but you feel like you're controlling the situation, and then things get so much better.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. I'll be sending that email to you, and we'll catch up soon, okay?
Okay, we will. Thank you very much.
All right, Malcolm. Good meeting you,
All right.
buddy.
Have a great day. You too.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed this session, coaching session that I did with Malcolm here on my YouTube channel. This is also available as my podcast. It's called Tinnitus Relief by My Tinnitus Club. You can find it on all major podcast platforms if you're interested. If you do enjoy this, then please consider subscribing and sharing it with the people that you think might find this helpful. Of course, I also offer these 30-minute free coaching sessions for you as well. You will find a link in the description to this episode where you can book that 30-minute free session. Other than that, as you've seen in the middle of this video, I can only really encourage you to join our online tinnitus membership club at www.mytinnitus.club for a 14-day free trial. And I'll catch you guys in the next video next week. Thanks for being here.